Perfect. Well, here I am with Sadie Miller, who we'll have a chat with about all things Sarah Jane Smith and beyond. Sadie, thanks very much for agreeing to do this today.
Oh, thank you for having me in my garden shed.
Yeah, lovely background. I thought you were in a sauna when you first came on, actually.
Oh God, I would love to be in a sauna. Dream of being in a sauna at the moment, but no, I don't think any holidays for a while.
So my first question is, at what age were you when you started to realise that your mother was a bit of an icon?
Oh God, I don't know about sort of icon, but I suppose I started to realise people knew who she was when I was about 6 or 7, really, when I was at school. And other children would sort of make comments about Doctor Who or Daleks and things. I thought, oh, okay, this sounds a bit familiar. But it wasn't really until we started doing the convention circuit. I think I must have been maybe a little bit older, maybe about 7 or 8, I suppose, when I started to meet other people associated with the programme, that I realised where she sort of fitted into the lineup, really. But I suppose, yes, when I was quite young, I don't really remember a time in my life when it wasn't there as well, really.
Did you used to have people coming up to you and your mum, when you were shopping in Sainsbury's or outside the school gates?
Sometimes, although they used to just shout at my mum, "Where are you going on your holidays? Iceland?" Because she was the Iceland mum for a while. So that was a lot more prevalent when I was at school. But not really. I remember we were at an airport once when you go through the security check-in when someone stopped her. And I remember thinking, oh no, what's going on? And he was a Doctor Who fan. But not really, actually. It's I don't know. I mean, I grew up in Ealing, and you have quite a lot of actors who live in sort of the Ealing, Chiswick area. So I think most people didn't really bother her. I think the second time around, sort of with Sarah Jane Adventures, I think people started to come up to her a lot more. But when I was growing up, she'd been out of the programme for such a long time, and obviously the programme wasn't on anymore. So I think it had sort of left people's consciousness a bit more, really.
How did your mother react to suddenly having this resurgence of young fans loving her work and following her when the Sarah Jane Adventures came on?
Oh gosh, I think she was very surprised, really. I mean, it was obviously lovely, but very unexpected. And to have such young children as well want to come up and speak to her. And you would always be able to tell if you were out and about, and you would sort of see them sort of look and sort of stop and maybe whisper to their mum or dad. But she always wanted to make the time to speak to them. But I don't know. I think mum got to tread that quite nice line, really, between being able to work and do what she wanted, but also be pretty much left alone unless it was a fan-based activity like a convention or so on. I think she was quite unobtrusive, really. But from her perspective, I think she enjoyed it very much, having that recognition.
You mentioned earlier about attending conventions as a child. Do you remember your first convention and meeting some of the other stars of the show?
Gosh, I think the first one was Blue Box, I want to say. I think it was in Bournemouth. I think it was run by Alan Langley. I think that was the first one that I went to. I don't remember them specifically. I sort of see them all blending into one, really. There was one in Manchester's Town Hall that was lovely, and they had quite a lot of the big names there. I think John Pertwee was there, and Debbie Watling, who was lovely.
Oh, yeah.
I only met her the once. I didn't realise that she wasn't, with us anymore until a year or so ago. But John was the Doctor that I met the most, really. I only sort of saw Tom a little bit. I don't think he was ever at the conventions that I went to, really. But lots of the other girls were always there. Caroline Ford, Carrie John, Sophie Aldred, and they were always very kind and generous and very inclusive, really. I think a lot of them had young children at the time. I remember Colin Baker, his oldest daughter Lucy would be there as well, and she and I would hang out a bit and things. So it was a nice collaborative atmosphere, I think, for the family and friends of the attendees as well.
So when did you first start watching your mum's episodes, or did you as a child watch your mother's episodes?
I think so. I remember watching Pyramids of Mars when I was quite young, because I think that's quite an easily accessible one for kids, because kids love ancient Egypt. And I think Sutek as the villain, I think that's his name, getting the pronunciations wrong, is obviously like a fantastic villain. Even nowadays, I think he's very sort of scary, and there's a lovely eerie atmosphere to it, and it's still got a lot of modern day twists, I think, to it. So I remember watching that when I was quite young, and watching, what was the first one? Time Warrior, with the medieval castle and June Brown in as well. I remember watching that. But for me, I don't think my parents ever forced me to watch it or said, oh, you know, come sit down. It was something that I started to have a natural interest in, just because it was around the family so much, really. But I think the early Doctor Who's, well, I suppose they're not early, are they? But the early ones of Mum, especially with John, I remember enjoying very much when I was a little girl. I think John, especially as the Doctor, to me as a child, was very captivating, really. He seemed to span a lot of different aspects. He was very accessible, but at the same time very authoritarian. I found it sort of like your favourite teacher at school. He had that sort of quality, and I really enjoyed watching those when I was a little girl.
We're talking about watching the Doctor episodes, and you have two children of your own. I take it they're a little bit too young at the moment to be aware of it.
Yeah, they're a little bit too young. So Valentine is only 1, and Theo's nearly 4 now. So I've not let him watch any of them. I might do when he's a bit bigger, but I have some sort of figurines of Mum at home, and he plays with them, and he calls her Grandma Liz and things.
Oh.
So it was lovely. Yeah, it's really nice. And obviously it's sad that she never gets to meet them for herself and things, but it's lovely to think that there's that legacy that's there for them as well, hopefully, and that they can enjoy it at some point. But I'm not sure which I'll start with first, really. Probably Sarah Jane Adventures, I suppose.
Now, when you were a child, you actually got to perform along with your mother on the 30 Years in the TARDIS that was released on VHS. That must be quite strange for your mum, having to wear 2 caps that day, as an actor and as a mother.
Oh yes, I don't think she liked it, to be honest. I think she preferred it to be quite separate, really. I think for her, she just wanted to focus on sort of doing one thing at a time. But it was a lovely opportunity for me to get to do with her. I think, I don't know, I think as an actor, she was very good at compartmentalising different aspects of what needed to be done. And when she was on set, I think she just wanted to focus on what she was doing as a job, really. I think she was always that sort of an actor, that it was very much her job, and when she was there, she wanted to focus on that. And when she wasn't on set, really, she didn't want to be thinking about anything to do with the job, really.
So I suppose the big question that comes along with the 30 Years in the TARDIS is, did you get to keep the costume? Do you still have the little dungarees?
I think they are somewhere. I think they may be in my dad's loft, the terrible loft that no one ever dares to go into because the beams and things are not safe to stand on. To be honest, I think we have probably an alarming amount of Doctor Who memorabilia and stuff sort of hidden away somewhere up there. I need to try and go with him and try and have a proper look through it. I'm sure I do. I'm thinking as well that we may even still have Mum's Andy Pandy outfit somewhere, because I'm sure that she was allowed to keep things from back in the day, but I know I need to go through it, really. But I don't know what happens to all these things now, because I think the Doctor Who exhibit's closed, hasn't it, in Wales? I think they've stopped that now, so I don't know who would have ownership of it. I guess the BBC, maybe, I don't know.
I think there's a lot of private collectors out there who are really interested in acquiring those sort of things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite recently, Russell T Davies wrote a sort of an extra conclusion to the Sarah Jane Adventures. Did you watch that?
I did, yes. Oh gosh, it's very moving. I couldn't believe that he'd gotten them all to do it, really, and I suppose they've all had to record it at home. I thought it was incredible that they managed to piece it together that way. But yes, very moving and very appropriate, I think, to kind of put a full stop on the end of her journey with Sarah Jane Adventures, really, because I think it was always left quite open, and you know, that feeling of, oh, what could have been and things. So I think it's quite nice and quite appropriate as well for Russell to do it, to say, you know, this is the final chapter, really. But I thought it was beautiful, and very sweet of him to do it, really.
You were saying to put that full stop at the end of the series, which is a perfect time to say we're going to take a brief stop in our conversation, but we will be coming back later on to discuss all things Big Finish. So for now, thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye. Bye.